Hey guys, HardlyBriefDan here with episode 13 of our August game of the month, and I want to start this video off by saying that I tried to record this a couple times, and therefore some of the code has already been written for the video, and I apologize for that, but I didn't want to keep rewriting it because it was getting a bit redundant for myself. So basically, what I'm going to do is kind of go through everything that I added, and then I'll make sure to cover it as best as I can, and if you guys have lots of questions or something, leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. But basically, the code that you're going to see that's already been written is the high score code, and I'll definitely take the time to explain what's happening. So if you remember, we started working on the high score counter, and basically what I decided is the high score is going to we're going to keep track of the 3 top high scores, and the way this is written, you guys can expand it. So if you want to keep track of more high scores than the top 3, then you can definitely do that. So basically, we're keeping track of the top 3 high scores. When you get a new high score, it checks to see which one it's higher than, and then if it's higher than one of them, it will put it there and then move and shift everything else down. So I'll go ahead and show you that code. The other thing I added or I changed is a little bit of the in-game GUI. No worries, it's super simple to change, and I'll go ahead and show you that. And then at the end of the video, we're going to get the big missile working properly, and then change the way it spawns, and change a little bit of the jet fighter ammo, and that'll be the end of that video, and then the last video on August 31st, tomorrow. That video will be adding our last, basically going through, making sure all the jet fighter works, the bomb works, and then adding the helicopter, and then flipping the spawns so that we can finish the game, and probably adding some sound effects at the end if we have time. If not, it's a simple game, it's up and running, and that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to finish the game. So enough talking, and we'll jump in. And I went ahead and I opened up the menu GUI script, the high scores function script, and the game over GUI function script. I think I'm going to go ahead and actually go back into Unity and open up the main menu GUI's function script just to have them all open. As you notice, you see, I'm going to actually zoom in for you guys a little bit. So you can see this player prefs dot delete all, and basically what this does, it's going to delete all your keys. It's going to erase everything, and I'm doing that because I was testing this to make sure it worked, to show you guys, and it does work, but I didn't want to just have it working in the video, so I went ahead and deleted all the saved information, and that's using player prefs dot delete all. That will delete everything that Unity has saved for this project. Now, here's the code that I wrote, and basically I'm going to go ahead and explain line by line what's happening. So the first thing here, it's an if statement, and it's basically it's going playerprefs.hasKey. This playerprefs.hasKey is looking for this tag called first time saved on the computer, and if it doesn't see it, then it's going to return true. It's going to return true or false. If it sees it, it will return true. If it doesn't see it, it will return false. So what we're looking for is we want this to return false. So we're saying if playerprefs.hasKey first time is false, meaning this first time save location doesn't exist anywhere on your computer, then we know it's our first time playing the game, and we need to go ahead and create our high score, the save points for the different high scores. So basically that's what this is saying. It doesn't exist. Create the player prefs for high scores. I'll go ahead and say for the first time. So this will actually only run once, right? It's going to run the very first time the game is created or played, and it won't ever run again. And so basically what we're doing here now is I'm debugging, saying it's our first. I'm debugging and putting in the log saying it's our first time playing. And then I went ahead and set player prefs set integer. I called it high score 0, and I set the high score to 0. Now you can go ahead and do this in a for loop, like down here. You can go ahead and say player prefs dot set int high scores plus I, and then comma 0, and that will actually set all your high scores to 0. So like I'll go ahead and show you. So you can go ahead and copy and paste this here, and instead of set int 0, you're just going to go ahead and set int and then do a plus, and then plus I. So what this will do, it's depending on the length of your high scores array, which remember we have a public static integer array, so it's accessible everywhere. It's the only one that exists, and it's called high scores, and it's of 3 length, right? Because I only want to have 3 high scores. You could change this, so if you had made this 100, this loop will run 100 times, and it's going to create 100 high score locations. But I didn't want to do that. I only wanted 3. So I'll actually go ahead and leave that. I'll leave this like this. You can manually set them like that, or you can go ahead and add it in the for loop and get rid of 3 lines of code. But basically it's going to go in there and set the new high score of 0, 1, 2, and 3, or 0, 1, and 2 to 0, and it'll be saved on our computer. The next thing you need to do is actually create this tag, so this location. It doesn't have to be a string. It can be anything you want. It could be an integer. It could be what's the other one? I guess bool that can store. I just said it's string and said not. This doesn't matter. It can definitely be changed. But basically, you need to create this key. This is called a key, right? This high score 0 is called a key, and you need to create it so it can find it. So this returns true and doesn't run it the next time. Now, hopefully you understand that. So basically, this will run the very first time the game starts. Now, when you run it every other time when you play, it's going to jump down and do this else statement. And right now I'm saying it's we're debugging and saying it's not our first time, right? It's our second time, third, fourth, whatever, how many times. It's just not our first time. I'm also debugging the high score log. So I'm saying high score 0. I'm retrieving it. I'm getting that integer, whatever's stored in this position. So if you have a high score of 12,000 and that's your highest score, this is high score 0. That's what it will show. And so forth. So it's going to jump down and show you all of your top 3 high scores in the console, so you can look at testing. The next thing that we're going to do is actually load all of our integers that are saved, all the high score values that are saved into our high scores public static integer array that we call high scores. Okay, so that's what that does. It loads them all. Get int is loading. Set int is saving. Okay, or set string, set bool, whatever player pref set value you want. The next if statement here you need to go ahead and add is current menu state is equal to menu states.gameover. This is a bit redundant, but basically I'm doing this for loop here. I'm loading everything again just to make sure that it's being loaded into the game. You can play around and probably get rid of this for loop, not this game over function, but the for loop you probably don't need, but I did it just in case. Now, the next thing you want to do is in our game over GUI functions, we're going to be creating a function called compare high scores, and you can go ahead and write that there now if you want. It won't. You'll throw an error until we actually write that function, but we're going to jump in and do that pretty soon. So that's it. Basically, it's just this big if-else statement, or it's not that big, but it's basically an if-else statement at the start, and it's saying, hey, is it our first time? If it is, then we want to create these saved locations to where we want to save the high score. Hey, if it's not our first time, then we can just load it because we already have those high scores in there. And that's what that does, and that's in the menu GUI script. So hopefully you get that. Next, we're going to jump into our game over function script where we wrote this compare high scores function. And then I'll go ahead and go over a few things in there. Remember, we have this public static int game score, and that's the score that we get from our previous game. And down here, I wrote this summary, and basically this is explaining. The summary explains what the compare high scores function does. And just to show you guys how to make the summary tag like that, you just go ahead and click the / like you're going to do a comment 3 times in a row. So 1, 2, 3. And if you're above a function, so like up here, if you're above a function or a method, it will actually create a summary tag for you, and it tries to explain what it does. So that's cool. That's what I did down here, and I said this compares the high scores. The method checks the current game score and checks to see if it is greater than the previous stored high scores. If it is greater than the one of the top 3, then it will replace the score, and then it will shift everything else down. So let's say your highest score is 200, and then you play again and you get 1200. Then what it's going to do, it's going to say, well, your new high score, the new top high score is 1200, so we're going to replace 200, but we're going to keep 200 and we're going to shift it down because we have 3 save locations. Now this function is written so that you can do as many save or top score spots as you want. So if you have 1,000 top score spots, this will run 1,000 times, and it'll keep track of 1,000 scores. So I wrote it that way so that you guys can don't have to follow along exactly like I'm doing. You can kind of expand. So I'm going to go ahead and explain what's happening. Basically, initially when this is called, we're going to go ahead and say, hey, what was our last score's game score? And that's what that variable does. It gets it for us, and it tells us in the console. And this is just for testing. You don't need this. You can actually go ahead and comment it out or delete it. It's up to you. But the next thing you want to go ahead and do is create a temporary integer. I'm calling GameScoreTemp. And basically, I'm storing this GameScore variable in this new variable so that we can use this new variable throughout our for loop and if statements. Okay. So then I create a for loop and start it at 0, and it goes the length of our high scores public static integer array. In this case, it's a 3, which you can go ahead and see in our menu GUI up at the top. Remember, it's size 3. And that's so it's going to run the length of that, which goes from 0, 1, and 2, because arrays start at 0 and they count up, so 0, 1, 2. That's 3 spaces for our array. And what we're doing here with this if statement is we're going to say, hey, is our new game score, our game score temp, is that greater than what we have in our high score array? And so when it goes through the first time, it's going to say, is our game score, if our game score is greater than high scores 0. So whatever the highest high score is, it's going to say, is our new score higher than that? And if it is, then it's going to go ahead and it's going to run this code. It's going to run through here and see if it's going to try to change it. It's going to say if it is greater, then we're going to do all these things. If it's not, then it's just going to run the loop again, and it's going to continually check. Right? So if the game score that you just got is not greater than any of the saved ones, then this is just going to stop running, and it's not going to save or do anything. But if it is greater, so let's assume your last game score was 200 and your new game score is 1200, so you have a greater high score, right? So it's going to do, it's going to go ahead and debug the position that it's at. So it's going to be looking at high score 0, the first position in the array. We're going to go ahead and set the high score, the previous high score, so in this case 200, into a temporary variable. And then we're going to go ahead and set the new high score equal to the game score that we just got, so 1200. And this is where it does that. And then we're going to save it. So we're going to go ahead and save that position. We're going to save that new high score so we can see it in our high scores window or menu item. Now, what this little function here is going to do, this is where it actually goes ahead and shifts. It shifts everything down and saves it, right? So we're not just going to delete the previous high scores. We want to shift them down so that the last 3 high scores are always your top 3 high scores, and they're always shifting down. And this is what that if statement does. Basically, it retrieves a high score, and this is wrong. Actually found a little error there. So now we're going to go ahead and retrieve that integer, and we're going to replace it, and we're going to save it into our player prefs int. And that's basically, I have a break statement which breaks out of the for loop, and then we have a high score statement here that that debugs out into the console our new high score. So once you do that, that's basically it for the high score. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to copy all that down. Hopefully I explained it well enough that you guys can kind of understand, and hopefully the summary kind of helps. The logic is pretty simple. It's basically just comparing all your high scores, or your new high score, or your new score versus all your other high scores, and saving and changing. You can actually do this without all the for loops. Maybe the for loops make it look a little complicated, but you can actually manually check with if-else statements to say, hey, is this bigger than that? Is it bigger than that? Is it bigger than that? But this for loop way is just a little faster and a little neater, and it's expandable. So now go ahead in the high score GUI's function script. There's a couple things that need to be added, and they're really simple, and you can go ahead and actually save these, or copy and paste these and paste them elsewhere. But basically, in our high scores menu, we have a play button, and when we hit the play button, we want to go ahead and make sure that we're saving all of our high scores. And this is just to make sure that they're being saved. So it's a little redundant again, but it's good to make sure that everything's being saved. And that's what this does. It's a little for loop that runs through the length of our high scores integer public static array, and it goes ahead and saves all the high scores. The next thing we need to do is read that high scores integer array and apply it down here onto our GUI label. And that's basically using a for loop. We're going to run through each high score and we're going to paste it into our GUI label that we had created before. So that's that. Pretty simple. Hopefully you understand that. You can go ahead and pause the video here and copy that down if you need to. The next thing in the main GUI function, I again just saved all of our high scores when we play the game, and that's just to make sure that everything's being saved. And then so I use that same for loop that we use in the high score GUIs function into our when we click play game here in our main menu GUI functions. And then when you click exit, remember we added this application.quit. So when you actually build this and you play it on your computer, you're gonna have, when you exit the game, you want to make sure that we're going to save everything. So we're going to save all the high scores again when you exit the game. Now, when you go ahead and click display high scores, we're going to load all the high scores into the high scores. Again, this is a little bit redundant, but I'm just doing it to make sure that we're actually loading everything. So we're going to load all of our high scores that are saved on the computer into the high scores public static integer array, and then we're going to go ahead and load into the high scores menu. So hopefully you get that. Go ahead and make sure you copy all those down, and if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and I'll try my best to explain what's happening. But I'm going to go ahead and just show you guys Control S to save. I'm going to jump in Unity, and if you see any little errors, it could be because I was playing around earlier with the game. I'm going to go ahead and press play, jump in the high scores. You see we don't have any high scores down here. I'm going to go ahead and actually blow up the game. But basically, now it's not our first time. Because I've already started the game twice. So if you look down here in the little console, it actually shows the actually you can go up here and see, because none of this is cleared. Let's see, not our first time. I'm going to look and make sure that you can actually see where we actually press play and started for the first time. You can see that it ran that one little if statement. Got to scroll through all this. Goodness, there's a lot. There might be too many. There it is. Okay, so here we go. It says it's our first time. We're going to display our high scores, which basically it's just running all these things here. And it's saying, hey, high score is 0. Our top high score is 0. Our second highest high score is 0, and our third is 0. And that's it's showing that it's our first time. If you saw down here, it showed that it's not our first time, and all of our high scores are set to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and press play again. The same thing comes up. See, not our first time, 0, 0, 0. We're going to go ahead and jump back in the game. I'm going to go ahead and play, and you're going to see that when our health drops down to, when we die, our score's 5,000. I'm going to go ahead and kill us, so our score will drop, our health drop down to 0. We're dead. You can see our final game score is 5,500. So I'm going to actually go back, go to our high scores, and you see our high scores saved there. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and play the game again, and we're going to go ahead and try to get just a lower high score. So it's going to show you that it's going to put it below it. And now we're dead. So we got 1,500 here. Going to go ahead and go back, and you see that it placed it in our second high score. And now I'll go ahead and I'll try to get a higher high score. Hopefully, okay, so we're over 6,000 now. I'm going to go ahead and let us die, and then you can see that everything should have shifted. All goes well. Okay, so we have 6,600, go back, you see, we have 6,600 and our 5,500, and actually, our third high score, it did not shift down, so... I think it might be this break statement. I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and try to get a let's try to beat 5,000. It's pretty easy too. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and just let myself die so we can see if hopefully it shifted down. If it didn't, we're gonna go back and look high scores. Okay, so there we go. It actually shifted down now. It's moving it. Trying to think. I want to go ahead and look and make sure our actual high score was 50. I don't remember what our high score was now. Let's see. This is the reason why I keep all these debug statements, so I can actually make sure that things working fine. This has been causing me so many problems. I don't know why. Let's see. 666. Come on, where is it? Well, if I can't find it in these little debug statements, I'm going to go ahead and just play again. We're going to have to beat the high score again and make sure to see if everything shifts. Actually, that's what we'll do. Okay, so we're going to jump back in. We're going to play again, and we're going to break our high score again. So we need to beat 6,000 just so hit. Okay, and there we go. We got 7,000. I'm going to go ahead and let us die, and then hopefully everything shifted down. I think that break statement was causing a little issues, which is okay, but I should have gotten rid of that. Okay, so now we're dead. We got 7,800. I should be able to go back, press play, and now you see that we have 7,800, 6,600, 5,500. So our scores are shifting and we're saving. Perfect. All right. So now that I proved to you that works after a little bit of errors, go ahead and get rid of that break statement because that was causing some hang-ups, and I apologize for that. So again, I apologize for not having all this, having all this typed out for you, but things happen. The next thing you probably notice is that in the play scene that I have changed around our GUI a little bit, and basically I'm going to go ahead and jump in our play scene so you can see. You see that I've changed where our health is and our score, and I got rid of all those stats. Those stats were to use like for during programming and starting up, and I thought I was going to go ahead and use them for other things, but there's not much need because we're going to keep this simple. So what I did is I went ahead and opened, I believe it's our game stats where we call our GUI. And down here we have an on GUI function. We had a whole bunch of labels in here. I deleted all of them except for current game score and health. And I went ahead and added a new public GUI skin. So it's public GUI skin, and I called it game skin, okay? And what we're doing is we're going to create a new style, much like the menu style. So if you go up to our menu skin, here we have custom styles. We have two of them. We had the menu one, which is where we used our buttons, but I went ahead to create a new one called Game. And under Game, I have set the font to Arial. I've set the font size to 26. You can change all this, just so remember that. Just set the font style to bold, and I said I want it to be middle center. And I went ahead and changed the text color to black. Okay, so go ahead, and if you need a larger size, you can change that. Remember, just add another one, but we only need 2. Game is what I called it. You can call it whatever you want. You can add textures. You can do whatever you want. This is your time to customize. But I went ahead and made the text color black, font size 26, font is Arial. I said it's bold, and I set alignment to middle center. So now on our play scripts, game object here where we have our game stat script. There's a new public variable called game skin. I went ahead and dragged our menu skin there because the menu skin contains our new style. And so on our GUI label, after current game health and score, I added a comma and said GameSkin.get style, and I found game, and so that applies the style to these two labels. And you can see that I use screen height and screen width, and I played around with pixel values to adjust it. Now these are going to be different depending on your screen resolution and the game that you're building. For me, I have a 1080 by 1920 by 1080 screen, so that's my screen width and height. So basically, screen.width returns that value. Screen.width will return 1920 for me. Screen.height will return a 1080 value, and I subtract 150, and this is just again to place it below where I thought it looked good. You can change around these pixel values. It's up to you. Again, all up to you. This is where you can customize, but that's what I did for the GUI. Now the next thing I wanted to do before this video ended, just so we can make some more progress in the game, because we're almost done, which is awesome because we're at the end of the month, and we want to finish the game by the end of the month. Basically, what I want to do is add a simple script, or not add a script, but basically go ahead and open up our prefabs folder, and we have our big missile prefab here. On our prefab, you know, when the missile spawns, it just drops straight down. I'm going to go ahead and press play, and you can go ahead and see that. In just a second, you'll see that this big bomb thing drops, right? There's a couple things we want to do, and we want it, we want it dropping towards our base. And we like aiming kind of thing, and we want to change the spawn point, and that's what we're going to work on today. So go ahead and open up the big missile script, and you see we don't have much information here, so we're going to go ahead and add a few things. The first thing we're going to go ahead and add is a couple variables. We're going to go private game object, and we're going to call this target. And we're going to create a public variable called, it's going to be integer, it's going to be missile speed. Okay. So go ahead and add those two variables, and now what we're going to do is in our start function is we're going to have to go ahead and find our target. So we're going to go target. It's going to be equal to a game object, capital game object, capital G, capital O, dot find game object with tag. Go ahead and put your parentheses dot. Actually, that'll be it. And then in these parentheses, the tag is going to be called player. Actually, we're going to go ahead and say cannon base. So now, what you need to do is go ahead into Unity and on cannon base, go ahead and add a tag, and we're going to call it cannon base. Make sure you spell it the same. So remember to do that, you go ahead and click cannon base, the game object. Under tag, not player, we want cannon base. So now it's going to find that, and that's going to be our bomb's target. So now, now that we find that, we want to go ahead and update our position. So we're not going to use gravity anymore. We're going to go transform dot position is going to be equal to a vector 3. Could be a vector 2. Vector 3 or 2. Vector 3 dot move towards transform position. So this is the current. This is our current position. This is our. We're moving. Basically calculating a new vector between us and our target, and our target is going to be our cannon base. So we're going to move towards, starting from our missile's position, transform dot position, to our target, which is a game object. So we'll go ahead and do target dot transform dot position. So that's our cannon base's transforms position, which is down at the bottom. And then we're going to go ahead and do a missile speed times time dot delta time. So this is just smooth out its movement towards our position. So the next thing we want to go ahead and do is add an if statement down here, and it's going to be collider. It's going to be if collider dot game object dot tag is equal to something. Then we're going to do something. And basically what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to say if this object collides with our cannon base, we want to go ahead and destroy the transform. So transform.gameObject, because we don't need it. And then we're going to go ahead and subtract health. So we're going to create another public int. We're going to go public int. We're going to say missile damage. And this can be edited based on what you want. So it doesn't have to be what I do. So I made it public so you can edit in the editor. Remember, we need to go ahead and capture current health. So we're going to say game stats.current health. So game stats.current health is going to be minus equals our missile damage, not speed damage. So what we're doing is we're going to say when this missile's dropping, if it collides with our cannon base, we're going to go ahead and delete the missile, but we're going to subtract health. The other if statement was, if the cannon ammo, if our cannon ammo hits the thing, we're going to destroy it, and then we're going to add points, right? So now we have our two if statements. So I'm going to go ahead and press play, or go into Unity, go ahead and press play, or not press. Go ahead and click on the prefab. Actually, you can see with missile speed, I'm going to go ahead and set that to 2, and I'm going to change our missile damage to 50. That might be too much, too little, and that, it's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and press play. So now you can see that we're losing health based on those bombs. You can see when our missile drops, there it goes. It's actually aiming towards us. So it's not the prettiest looking thing, but it's actually moving towards our player, our base in this case, and deleting itself. And that, again, we're using our polygon collider here for their cannon base. There's a couple things I needed to point out to you. For the jet fighter ammo, I went ahead and added the trigger to the box collider because I was running into this issue where basically this thing was falling and it was screwing up the base. So I don't know if that was originally triggered or not, but go ahead and set the jet fighter ammo as a trigger. Make sure the big missile on the gravity is set to 0, and that you're going to have to probably adjust the speed a little bit on that because it's going to be falling slower. So I set the gravity to 0. I'm going to go ahead and press play, and we can kind of see now how fast that missile drops. You can see it's pretty slow, but it gives you time to actually kill it, you know, which I think is cool. You can go ahead and change that speed to like 4, I don't know, 5 if you want. It'll drop it faster. It makes it a little more challenging. Again, it's up to you. And then I'm going to go ahead and see. Actually, 5 works a lot better. It looks a little bit better. So the next thing we're going to do, and that's be the last thing we do in this video, and then again in the next video we'll go ahead and finish everything up for the game. In this, what we want to do is we've created this this spawn point relocator script, and it works really well. It's like it works well. The way it works is it basically looks for to see if the transform has, or if it looks to see if we reset this variable. If it resets, then we're going to go ahead and relocate a spawn. And I like this script, and I wanted to reuse it for our spawn point relocator for a missile, and we can if we just add a few more changes in here. So we're going to go ahead and open up this spawn point relocator script. We're going to we're going to open up the gameplay manager script as well, so we can go ahead and work on that. We need to add a few things. So we're going to say this bool that we had here, this public static bool, we're going to create another one. It's going to be the same public static bool here. Public static bool, and we're going to say it has missile reset is this next one, okay? Missile reset. That looks weird. Anyways. So basically it has missile reset. We're going to be doing the same thing down here, you know, what we did with our enemy timer. So we're going to go ahead and set our has missile reset to true when we actually reset its position. So, well, like when we spawn it. So it's going to be set to true here. We're going to go ahead and start it at false at the start. And then now in our spawn point relocator, we can actually reference that. So we're going to go ahead and say I'm going to copy this if statement. We're just going to create another one. And this is not the best way to do it, but it gets the job done. So we're going to go if missile reset is true, right? We're going to go ahead and set that to false, and we're going to go ahead and call this relocate spawn function. But now what we're going to do is actually send it a bool, and this bool is going to say bool, and we're going to say is missile, and so now we're going to go ahead. So we know this first if statement is the jet fighter, so we're going to go ahead and send it false. But we know this one is the missile, so we're going to go ahead and send it true. So that means we're going to go down here and manipulate a few things. I'm just making some space so I can center this up on the screen so you don't have to look at the bottom. But basically what we're doing now is we want to say, hey, if it's our missile, then we want to do this. If it's our jet, we want to do this, because they're going to be relocating differently. So what we'll do is go ahead and say if is missile false, right? That's what the exclamation point does. We're going to go ahead and run this bit of code right here. If you want to know how to shift everything over like that, you highlight it and then hold shift and tab and it moves it back. But anyway, so we're saying if it's not our missile, then we're going to spawn how we normally do. But then we'll go if it is our missile, so we'll say if is missile is true, then we're going to relocate a little differently. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll copy and paste this. We'll go ahead and say our spawn position now is going to be, we're actually going to be moving our X, so we're going to go ahead and move this. We're going to cut that. We're going to paste it here. and we're going to say spawn point spawn position dot y. Right. So what we're doing is basically our spawn position for our missile is up top. So if you go into Unity, go into our scene, you can go ahead and see our spawn point for our missile spawn here is up top, and it's going to be going from left to right. So now, but we create this group, we can go ahead and drag our spawn relocator on there, and you can see it. And remember, our min and max height is now actually going to be our X values. So you can see it shift going. You know, we want it probably drop from -7. So we'll say min height is going to be -7. -7, and we'll go all the way up to 7, which is just so it's centered, because this whole scene is centered on 7. And go ahead and press play, and we should be able to see that spawn point move. Why is it moving height like that? Okay, let's see. Make sure I'm doing that correctly. So we're saying so if it's true, we've reset our position. I'm gonna make sure I included everything in here. It should be the same. We're saying spawn point. Okay, so that's an issue, I think. No, it's not. Okay, Spawn point relocator. We're saying spawn position. It should. Let's see what's going on. Okay, we should be able to debug. We're going to do a little bit of solving here. I thought this would work. Debug log missile. Relocate. I'm just doing this to kind of see where the issue's coming in and see why it's dropping down and stuff. So we'll go ahead and press play, and it should. I'm trying to figure out why the Y is dropping so much. Looks to me like it's random. It's doing this one as well. So we'll go else if here. I think the issue here, it's gonna just keep running. Well, maybe you guys see the issue. Yeah, see, it's definitely running both of those. Well, alright, I can't figure this out right now. I'm drawing a blank. Maybe you guys figured it out. It's a pretty simple fix, but we're just going to go ahead and make a new spawn relocator script, because that'll solve all of our problems and make it real fast. And that's what we'll do. It's kind of hackish. It's not really, the best way to do it, but hey, running longer on the video, I'm going to get it done. So we're going to go ahead and say spawn missile relocator, like that. I'm gonna go ahead and open that up in Unity, or Mono Develop, excuse me. So now I'm gonna go ahead and basically I'm just gonna delete this, because we're gonna cut that out. We're gonna put that on our new spawn relocator, like that. Oh, shoot, I accidentally messed up. So we're gonna go say is missile as reset, like that. We'll go ahead and copy this whole function here, because we need it, like that. And now we're going to go ahead and delete this one, or we'll go ahead and delete this if statement. And actually, we don't need these if statements anymore, because we're going to get rid of this bool. Oh, that should be the same, but that should be gone. So hopefully you kind of see what I'm doing. Spawn position. Go ahead and copy all these variables. And actually, that is the issue right here. Well, actually, I'm not sure. I think because spawn position is going to be this. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. That was weird. But anyways, we will figure it out. Okay. So now what we've done is we're going to go ahead and change this to min max height. We're going to say min x and then max x. So you know which values you need or which values work where. So we have our min and max x. We're moving our character over. I'm going to go ahead and shift tab all these to the left a little bit. So now we're going to go ahead and go into Unity, and we're going to drag and drop this script onto our spawn here. I'm going to go ahead and remove the old one first, and then we're going to go ahead and add the new missile relocator. Remember we said -7 and 7. We'll go ahead and press play, and hopefully that works now. And it's working, and you can see our bomb is dropping. You have plenty of time. We died, but you can see that it was actually moving back and forth, and that's what I wanted to get done. So it's a little hackish, and I apologize for that. Maybe you guys found the problem. You can tell me and go ahead and let me know. I just didn't want to sit here and try to debug that and run time on the video. But anyways, hopefully you understand how the high score works, and hopefully you like how I changed up the little bit of GUI and deleted some of the clutter and let us have more play area. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and finish up the jet fighter and the helicopter, and I think we'll go ahead and put the stamp of approval on this and finish the project for August. Remember, in the link down below the description, there is a link to a poll, which is for the new game of the month. Right now, I believe the highest one is a point-and-click adventure, which I kind of put on there as a joke, but apparently you guys want that, so we'll go ahead and, if that wins, we'll go ahead and work on that. On September 1st, I'll go ahead and try to make an announcement video or tweet it or something and let you guys know that the polling has been closed and what the September game of the month will be, and then we'll go ahead and get started on that. But again, hopefully you liked the video. Please like, subscribe, comment. You can follow me on Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook and comment there, or send me messages, whatever you need, and I'll try to help. Hope you liked the video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.